You know, when you think of an economic powerhouse, Kansas probably isn't the first place that comes to mind. But maybe it should be, because it turns out the state's Department of Commerce is engineering this absolutely staggering run of success. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down their playbook. Okay, let's just start with one number, one huge number. In a single fiscal year, we're talking about Kansas securing over $7.3 billion in private investment. And that's not just a statistic, it's a massive injection of fuel right into the state's economic engine. And that investment, well, it translates directly into a real-world human impact. In that same year, all that money helped create or retain nearly 13,400 jobs. I mean, these are careers, these are livelihoods, and new opportunities for families all across the state. And let's be really clear here, this wasn't just some lucky one-off good year. This was the third straight year that Kansas absolutely shattered its own investment records. So this isn't a fluke, it's a pattern. It's real sustained momentum. Which, of course, brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. What is the secret sauce here? How in the world is a state in the heart of America generating this kind of economic energy? Well, the answer really starts with the Department of Commerce's core strategy. And it's not one single big idea. Nope. It's a really carefully balanced, two-pronged playbook. You can almost think of it like a barbell strategy. On one end, they're making these huge, big bets, using powerful incentives to attract major global companies. But on the other end, they're laser-focused on local roots, nurturing those small-town downtowns right from the ground up. It's a fascinating and really powerful balance. So let's look a little closer at those big bets. You've got the PEAK program, which is short for Promoting Employment Across Kansas. It lets companies keep a chunk of their employee withholding taxes to fuel their own growth. Then there's the HPIP program, which offers a straight-up 10% tax credit on major investments. But honestly, the most interesting part might be this rural advantage. Get this, the investment threshold for HPIP drops from $1 million in the big cities all the way down to just $50,000 in rural counties. It's a really strategic way to drive that capital outside the usual places. And their commitment to that local roots side of the playbook is just as serious. I mean, take the Kansas Main Street program, which helps bring historic downtowns back to life. It was actually eliminated back in 2012, but they brought it back in 2019, and it's been growing ever since. That shows a real dedication to making sure prosperity happens at the community level too. Okay, but a modern economy, it needs more than just local shops and big factories, right? It needs connectivity. So the second pillar of Kansas's strategy isn't about physical roads at all. It's about digital ones. They are making a massive push to bring the entire state into the 21st century economy. And when I say massive, I mean it. We're talking about a staggering $837 million investment in broadband. What they're doing is strategically combining these huge federal grants from the American Rescue Plan Act and the Big Broadband Deployment Program with their own state and matching funds. The goal? To connect every single corner of Kansas. Now, that investment is huge, no doubt. But the challenge is even bigger. This chart right here tells such a powerful story. For just one fund, the Capital Projects Fund, there was $85 million available. Okay, well, the state received applications requesting nearly $600 million. That's a 700% oversubscription. It's just a stunning indicator of how immense the need for this digital infrastructure really is. All right, so the third piece of this puzzle is all about looking to the future. Kansas isn't just trying to attract existing companies. It's actively working to foster the next generation of businesses and ideas, and they're doing it through their Office of Innovation. A key tool they're using here is the Angel Investor Tax Credit. The idea is so simple, but it's really powerful. If you invest in a certified Kansas startup, the state gives you a 50% tax credit. For an entrepreneur, finding that first bit of seed money is often the hardest part. This program basically cuts the risk for investors in half, which makes it way more likely that a great idea actually gets off the ground. And guess what? It totally works. In 2022 alone, the program generated over $7 million in credits. That money supported 27 different companies and involved over 200 private investors. This is literally how you build a startup ecosystem from the ground up. And once again, you can see this clear focus on spreading the opportunity around. Another program, Excel KS, gives out $25,000 grants to innovators with bold new ideas. But here's the key rule. At least 30% of those grants must go to projects based in rural counties. So, all of this incredible success is forcing a new and really important conversation in Kansas. Because when you're breaking records year after year, you have to start asking, are we even measuring success in the right way? And what should come next? The whole definition of what economic success means is starting to shift. For decades, it was all about those traditional metrics, right? Jobs created, capital invested. But now there's this growing call to look deeper, to start measuring things like livable wages, environmental impact, and just overall community well-being. The whole conversation is moving from quantity to quality. And this isn't just about coming up with new metrics for their own sake. It's part of a much bigger, much more forward-looking idea, the concept of a regenerative economy. We're talking about an economy that doesn't just grow, but does it in a way that's resilient, that's equitable for all its citizens, and is environmentally sustainable for the long haul. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? Well, Kansas's success isn't magic. It really is a formula built on three core ideas. First, a hybrid strategy that balances those big corporate wins with local community growth. Second, a massive bet on foundational infrastructure, like broadband. And finally, a forward-looking conversation about what true, sustainable growth really means. And that leaves us with a really fascinating final question to chew on. As states all over the country are looking for new ways to thrive, could this path that Kansas is starting to forge, this path that balances big business with community well-being and aims for a truly regenerative model, could that be the new blueprint for economic success?